Welcome back to the Worthy Woman podcast with Aston Simmons. Today, I have a beautiful, powerful guest. I'm super excited to share this beautiful woman with you and the amazing work she does. We have Miss Sarah Weller with us today, and we were just having a chat off air, and I'm super excited about this conversation because, as a lot of my listeners will know, this year I really want to focus on my money mindset more, and the universe has sent me this incredible woman, and her business is actually called Accounting Angels, which is really interesting, and I took that as a sign. And so what Sarah does is they are bookkeepers who specialise in supporting female-led businesses to know their numbers, which is huge. We were just talking about this off air, that as women, and I've been guilty of this, women in business, we don't always know our numbers. Or even if you are a woman who, I've had several clients who just don't know their numbers financially, just in running the home, or even in what they're worth, like in asking for a pay rise at work or something like that. This issue of money, and like, I really do believe like your net worth relates to your self-worth. And I'm sure Sarah can really reinforce that for us today. And I know it's something I've had to learn, and it's something I have to work on for my own money mindset, and also help my clients with. And I think it comes up for women so much. So I'm really excited about this chat. And I'm going to hand it over to Sarah to dive in a bit deeper with what she does and a little bit more about her. But I'm just super excited. So thank you so much for being here, Sarah.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited as well. It's such a big topic, money and women and self-worth. And it's, like you said, it's all so interconnected. And I think, so we started out just doing bookkeeping and bookkeeping for anybody. And, you know, if you had a business, no worries, we'll do your bookkeeping. And the more we sort of delve into it, and you know, the more clients that we worked with, much we love all of our clients, we were seeing the biggest results and the biggest ahas with our women or our female clients. And I think a lot of that is because it's something that they kind of just don't worry about. The amount of clients that have come to me and they've got a business and everything's great, and I'm like, and they're like, you know, but my husband pays this, and this is how this works. And I'm like, that's amazing, but what happens if your husband wasn't there? Oh, I don't know. And some of them couldn't even work out how to, you know, didn't even know how to log into their ATO account or any of that sort of stuff. So I just think it's such a powerful and important topic to talk about. And I think as well, knowing, so I was sharing a little bit before, I actually got to 35 and decided that I hadn't had a bub yet, and Mr. Right hadn't come along, and getting my business to the point where it could financially support us without me having to work. And I did that by knowing my numbers very, very closely and intimately. Because of that, I'm a mum now, and I wouldn't have had that had I not had this knowledge. So
goosebumps. It's so powerful. Even though I've already heard that story, it still just gives me goosebumps, because I think that is one of the biggest struggles for women, especially when they want to become mums. And we go through a bit of this identity crisis, and we don't feel valuable. We don't feel worthy. We don't feel like we're achieving anything. And a lot of that comes down to, if we can't work and we can't earn an income, like so much, we put so much of our value and our sense of achievement and success on earning an income. So I just think that's so powerful and so inspiring, the way that you, just knowing your numbers in your business enabled you to literally set your business up so that it could support you to be able to actually make your dream come true of having your beautiful son, who we were just talking about, which is amazing. So celebrating you so much, and really just feel like that is so inspiring. I really just want to like dive straight into it, because I'm just so excited. And what I really want to start with, and I know we talked about this before, it really does start with the money mindset. So, and you've kind of touched on it already, that we have these beliefs of like when you speak to the women, they're like, oh yeah, my husband pays for this, or I don't need to worry about that, or I'm just doing it. Like one of mine used to be that, oh no, I just want to help. Like I'm not driven by money. And it was like, yeah, okay, but I still got bills to pay. So, you know, I'd love to start there, because I know a lot of women kind of get stuck in a bit of that like people pleasing or too much giving, and then don't know how to receive, like can't receive that money back. And then they wonder why they're struggling, or why they can't afford to invest in themselves, or, you know, what's important to them. So yeah, I'd love to start there.
I think a lot of it is they don't actually realize that they could get the business to the point where it could fully support them or their entire family. We've got clients now that they started out doing, you know, little bits and pieces just in and around the kids, and their entire goal now is to retire their husband. And it's actually possible.
Yes.
But it's not possible if they don't know what it's going to take to get there. So I have a lot of clients where when we onboard them, we do all the bookkeeping stuff, my team does, and then the senior management, so myself or a couple other girls, we step in, and that's when we start to do the I guess have the big conversations of, okay, well, how much are you earning a month? I don't know. Okay. How much are you putting away for this a month? I don't know. And then the big one for me is, well, how much do you want to earn a year? Oh, maybe $100,000. Awesome. Why do you want to earn $100,000? It's about what my husband earns. Or, oh, it just sounds like a good number. It's like, okay, but what if you could have the lifestyle that you want and only earn 80,000? Or what if you're striving towards earning 100,000 and you get there and all of a sudden life doesn't look how you wanted it to because you really needed to be on 150,000? And so I think it's about having those conversations. And so many of us, myself included, I fell into business. I didn't plan on owning a business. It was not my lifelong dream. I always wanted to do something, you know, I guess higher up, but certainly not this. And it wasn't until I kind of fell into it and I kind of went, well, how many clients do I have to cover my current lifestyle? I've got sticky notes on the wall. And when I originally did that, it was 10 sticky notes were my rent. And once I'd reached that, I knew I could cover my rent. And I guess that was sort of the start of working out what you need and then working backwards. And then once you sort of start to do that, it's like the light bulb comes on and they're like, oh, hang on a minute. So I only need 45 clients a week in, let's say, for a hairdresser, argument's sake. And then I can do this, this, and this. And I'm like, yeah. And if you just add an extra 10, that's when the kids go to private school. Oh, so it's tying it back to real life things.
Yes.
And it's amazing. The light bulb just comes on.
Yeah, 100%. And I can fully relate. When I was really scared to grow my business, and I kind of like you fell into it. It was something I was already doing. But I had to realize that it was worthy of more time and attention. And like you said, more conversations and getting clearer on, okay, I love doing this, but this could actually support my life too. It's not just about supporting other people, which, you know, is great. And I love doing that, but it's, you need it to support you too. And this was the piece that I had to learn. And I was exactly the same. I remember having this light bulb moment when I was talking to my business coach and they were like, the exact questions you just asked me. So, and I remember at first I was like, I have no idea. And I had to get clear on it. And at first it is uncomfortable because for some reason we have all this kind of icky energy around money. And I think more so women, as if we think we can't have what we want or we can't even ask for what we want. Whereas men, like I feel like most men in general, they have no trouble and no problem saying, well, this is how much I want to earn. You know, and the world has really set us up like that. And I'm really, you know, I love hearing from women and businesses like you because we're trying to really switch that narrative and we're really, you know, one person at a time, we're breaking those generational patterns and we're showing that it is possible, that exactly like you said, if you know your numbers and you break it down. And every time I do this, because I do it for the year, but then I also do it monthly just to track myself and I look at it weekly as well. And it used to overwhelm me. I used to say, I hate numbers and numbers hate me. That is the worst mantra you could possibly have if you want to move your money mindset. So do not have that one. I had to change it to like, I love money and money loves me. You know, money is just energy. And and so it really, it's the same as everything else. So it's not, it's neutral.
Absolutely. And I think it's also, it's not so much the money that scares people, I don't think. It's the what else that brings with it. So
yes.
The more money you earn, the more tax you pay. That's a big bill. The more money you earn, a lot of the time, the more staff you have. That's lots of people to manage. The more, you know, if you're not earning enough money, like I just had Hartley's first birthday and for the first time in a long time, I hadn't put money away for it. And I was like, so I've already started putting money away. We can all just rest assured. But I went into this first birthday and all of a sudden, you know, the bill was growing and growing and growing. I'm like, I didn't plan for this. Now the money was there. It wasn't a problem, but it's more around, well, you know, am I spending enough? Am I not spending enough? And it's not just, you know, birthdays. It's, you know, stock, it's staffing, it's so many things. And I think it's not so much, as I said, the money, it's what it unravels. And it's also, I think, very ancestral, and it goes back through
definitely.
so many, it's the little stuff. So to travel, my great-grandfather was very, very strict on money. And my mum and her two aunts would get one jar of jam, and they were allowed to have that one jar of jam for a month. And they, my mother always, first week, jar of jam gone. My aunt would still have like half a jar at the end of the month. And it's, I'm very much like, well, I waste money. And I used to. And it's because, that's how mum grew up. So that inner voice in my head is like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll just use up all my jam. Where it's retraining yourself. And it's all those little things that you hear, and then you start earning money, and then it just
repeats. It's crazy. It's like everything. We kind of beat ourselves up, but exactly like you said, you learned it as a child. You heard those stories, and before the age of 7, you just decide this is how money works. This is how I treat money. This is what I do with money. And then this is how we get into this pattern of a lot of people, living from paycheck to paycheck, because that's what your parents did, or they were always struggling, or always surviving, or there was never enough, or maybe you only just had enough. And then if you look at yourself, you can actually realize, oh, wow. And, me and my husband had to have this realization several times, like, we're repeating a pattern in the way that we spend our money. And what does that come back to? And that comes back to those beliefs, or those, like the story about the jam. It sounds so simple and you think, oh, of course, it can't be that. But it is. It starts from those things. And the powerful thing is you can retrain it and you can reprogram yourself. But I think the first step is bringing that awareness to it. And I think, like you said, a great way to do that is have those tough conversations and really ask yourself, like, because you're so right. We think we want something, but it might be what society tells you want. It may not be what you actually want. And so getting really clear on, like, doing I call it like a lifestyle calculator. So calculate everything that you need for your lifestyle, calculate the cost of that. And then, like you said, work back and be like, okay, well, what is that going to take in terms of my job or my business or whatever it is?
Yeah. And I said there's a couple of different things we do with our clients, but one of the things, two things that are the most powerful, well, not all of us. I said this to a new client the other day. They're like, I've never done that. But like, we've all done that, write out your perfect day as if it's already happened task. Yes. Yeah. Most of us have done that.
Yeah.
And then, so we get a lot of our clients to actually do that in their first couple of months with us. And they're like, why am I doing this? This isn't to do with numbers. I'm like, yeah, just do it. And then they do it. And then we actually go and price it. And so we actually go and go, okay, so your perfect day is, X, Y, and Z, you have a trainer come in, you've got food prepared, whatever it might be. What do you think it costs? And they're like, oh, it costs blah, 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 I don't know, 15 grand a month. Actually only costs 10. Or actually, no, it costs 25. So this is, you need to do this, this, and this to change it. And I think the other thing that we do is we actually work with them to do what we call is our 4-tier budget. So tier 1 is like, you know what, I'm focusing on my business. I'm putting everything I've got into it. There's not enough money at the moment, but I'm coping. Tier 2 is generally where you're at now. So you're pretty comfortable, you're moving forward, but you can't kind of just go and do fun things without planning. Tier 3 is, I'm pretty bored. I think I'll go to Bali, but I have to plan for it. Tier 4, we call our Kardashian budget. And that's, I'm bored this morning. I'm going to the airport this afternoon. And by doing that, it actually works out, like our clients look at it and they kind of go, okay, so this is where I'm at. This is what I want. What do I have to do to get there? And it breaks down the steps. And I think by breaking down the steps, it actually makes it possible.
Yes.
As opposed to, again, just this horrible, scary conversation.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Possibly an unrealistic conversation. And interestingly, a lot of the clients that we get to do this, everyone's Kardashian budget is very different. I have clients where their top tier budget's like 120 grand. They live a very simple life. They're very happy. Their perfect day is going for a walk on the beach, getting a coffee, and maybe doing a yoga class. My 4th tier budget is about 780,000 before tax. I like pretty things. I've always liked pretty things. And I like to be able to include my friends and family in that pretty thing. So it adds up. So I think, for me to get to here is going to take a whole bunch more steps than if my top tier budget was that 120. So it's sort of knowing where you sit, and where you sit is okay. Everyone sits in different places, but it's knowing that, and not striving for something just for the sake of it. Because you actually probably won't get there because there's no motivation.
Yeah. And I think this happens to a lot of people. They wonder why they're not achieving their goals. They beat themselves up. They're like, they compare. I have a lot of clients who compare themselves to so many other women or so many other families or mums. And then when I ask them, do you want to be that mum? Do you want to be remembered as that mum, or do you want to be that person, or do you even want that car or that relationship? They're like, oh, actually, no. And I'm like, so we're wasting our time. Like, compare yourself to yourself, and even better, do exactly what you said. Like, get clear on what your levels are. Like, I loved how you described those different levels, and I kind of see them as different identities of ourselves. I talk a lot about recreating your worthy woman inside, and there's different layers to this worthy woman. I've gone through probably 3 or 4 levels or versions of what I call a worthy woman, and that will continue to happen the whole way through my life as I evolve and I change, and my likes and dislikes change, my children grow, all those things. But I love the getting just crystal clear on what you actually want, why you want it, and then breaking it down and then just seeing it clearly and going, okay, well, these are the steps I need to take to get there. And either way, that's going to bring clarity and make you feel closer to where you're going. So I think that's really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's really, really powerful.
Probably one of my favorite bits. When we get a new client, I'm like, okay, we get to do this fun part now. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
And talking about tax, and I'm like, no.
It's so crazy, isn't it? Even in the work I do, like, we have a surface level understanding of so many things. And I think that's where the problem is. We get stuck on the surface, like bookkeeping, tax. Like, I loved that, that that's just really the surface level of it. The actual action and strategy of it is the surface level of it. Underneath, there is so much like energetics and mindset and worthiness and beliefs that you do have to actually look at, because you can change all the things on the surface. If you don't look underneath the hood, and there's still problems, there's still leaky bits, there's still parts missing, it's going to fall apart, or you're going to sabotage it. So I really love that.
It's also a big flaw in our industry as well, the bookkeeping and accounting industry. We have a lot of clients come to us and they're so far behind their BAS. Like, I think our record so far has been about 7 or 8 years behind in their BAS.
Wow.
The reason why they're behind, when they went to speak to their accountant about it, they were told how scary it was and how bad it was and how the ATO were going to do this, this, and this, and this. And they freaked out and they went away for another year. And it wasn't until we got them on the phone and they're explaining it. And I was like, it's actually not that bad. Like, yes, not ideal, not what you're meant to be doing. However, the ATO are not there to shut you down. That's not their, like, if they went in and shut us all down, they're going to have their tax coming in. Obviously, yes, there are situations where that does happen, and not all situations can be rectified. However, if you actually get in and work through it, there's always a solution of some variety. Yes. And I think that's, I see all the time bookkeepers go, oh, well, I've got, this client that doesn't lodge their BAS and they just don't care. And, oh, well, that's their fault. Well, yes, in essence it is, but by making it this horrible, big, scary thing, they're never going to want to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
If you actually kind of, work with them and go, okay, yes, you're in a pickle, but we can work through it. It just changes the whole thing. And I think that is one of the biggest flaws in our industry.
Yeah. And I think actually it goes across lots of industries, because lots of things seem hard and scary at first. And yet, like, relationships are the same, and that's why people avoid dealing with it. But it doesn't mean the problem goes away. Like, I often think of it like a blocked pipe in my kitchen. Like, if I start hearing the pipe glugging away and like really struggling, I'm better off to get someone out, like a plumber, to look at it than when the pipe bursts and my house is flooded. Like, there's just different versions of hard, isn't there? Like, you've just got to choose your hard.
Absolutely. And this whole thing of, oh, you're only small, it's okay, don't worry about it, or zero's easy, you can do it all yourself. It's like saying, here's a pair of hairdressing scissors, cut your hair.
Yeah,
I'm going to
100%.
In fact, I did my friend's hair with a pair of hairdressing scissors and I did make a mess.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks. And
no, absolutely.
And I love, like you said, just because we can do it all doesn't mean we should. And I know that was a belief I had to move through, because I was raised with that belief that if you can do it, you should do it. Like, be that independent, strong woman. Yep. The thing is, when you add some kids in, a business, you're asking for burnout. And I actually had to learn that it's a strength to ask for help. And in order to have it all, I don't actually have to do it all. More importantly, I need to be able to ask for help and, know my numbers and ask people who have done it before me and work with people who have done it so that I can get there faster and without the stress and the worry and all those things. So I absolutely love that. I really want to dive a bit deeper into the bookkeeping and just how that is the missing puzzle piece, because I mean, you've already touched on it, and I think it's just so true that for so many people, they don't do it or they put it off, and then all these problems come later. So yeah, just if you want to share a bit about that, I'm sure you've had lots of experience with it.
Yes, absolutely. So if you think about your business as a puzzle, so not everyone can see my hands, but my hands are sort of interlinked like a puzzle. And on the outer side is all your little bits and pieces. So things like, for example, COVID, things like getting sick, like I had a really complicated pregnancy. So I was in bed on bed rest for 10 weeks, put on, like I was maternity leave from 20 weeks.
Wow.
All these little things that happen, even just, you know, a staff member leaves, whatever it might be, they're all your outside pieces. If your solid foundations are solid and connected, no matter what happens out here, this bit still stays solid. Now, it's my opinion that your bookkeeping and your finances of business are the centerpieces. If you think about, if you know your numbers and you have a lull in getting clients through, well, then when you go to your marketing company, you can say, hey, I've dropped 50% in sales. This is what I can afford to pay in marketing. This is what I can afford, you know, cost per lead, etc. And you're actually giving them information that's actually going to help them, as opposed to it's really quiet, I need new clients.
Yes.
Okay. How much are you willing to spend? How much is a client? Like it's just so fundamental to know these figures. The same thing goes as, for example, I suppose if we use my maternity leave example, I knew exactly how many clients, how much money I needed to literally go to bed for 6 months. And I had to keep my son alive. I was literally in bed for 6 months. Because I had all of that planned out and I knew exactly what it was going to take, I literally left my obstetrician's appointment, called my operations manager, went, this is what's going on. She's like, yep, awesome. You're done for this pregnancy. And they just took over. And I knew that in the first week of every month when I sat down, I knew how many clients were going to pay me. I knew exactly what I had to pay, and I could just do it and then go back to bed. And it's not necessarily about the fact, well, obviously you've got the skills, you know that. It's about having the foundation set up so that if things do happen, for example, COVID, you know, most of our clients were some of the most relaxed business owners in Victoria, or Australia, because we're across Australia. But as an example, with all the lockdowns in Victoria, because they knew exactly what money was coming in, what they could put on pause. Like it was just literally like clockwork. And it wasn't because we knew COVID was coming, just like everyone else. We had no idea, but we had the foundation set. And that's the biggest, I guess, part to why it is such a big missing puzzle piece. I think as well, let's be honest, most of us, even if we just get into business to help, we also would like to earn an income. We also like pretty things. We like to travel. We have bills. If we don't know our business finances, it just becomes this deeper and deeper hole that you get into. And at some point, it's very hard to get out. So by sort of learning the foundations and learning, I guess, all your numbers and things from the very, very start, like we have clients that will actually sign up with us before they've even made a sale. And it's because they want to get the foundation set correctly, so that then as they move forward in business, they don't end up in that scary hole they then have to dig out of.
Yes.
That's, I guess, you know, in my opinion, why it's so important. It sort of feeds every area of business. You know, you have a employee come to you and say, look, I want to take on some management tasks. And so, you know, you've been so busy, I want to help you out. But in return for that, I think I'm worth X, Y, and Z now. Well, you want to be able to say to them and have that conversation with them, well, actually, to be worth X, Y, and Z, you need to be doing this, this, and this in the business. Well, if you don't know what the business needs and where it's at financially, how do you know? And so you're having these blind conversations all the time. That's, again, just getting you nowhere. Where if you actually have that information, you can make really informed decisions that's constantly moving the business forward, which is ultimately what we all want.
Yeah. And I was just thinking that this even relates to someone who's in a job.
Absolutely.
And maybe you could talk a bit to that, because I know I was seeing that in my head. I could relate both ways, but even just as a mom and, when I have my kids and I was, went back to just my husband's income and I didn't know all this in the beginning and no one really talks about it. I feel like it's a very hush thing that you have a child and it's just like everyone knows it's going to be hard and you're going to go to one income unless you have a plan, like what you were talking about. But no one really talks about how to avoid that happening. And now I can see that, you know, by working out how much you need, exactly like you said, planning it, looking at it. That can really help. But also the other side is like, if you are in a job and you do want to ask for more money, exactly what you said, like getting clear on what skill set or what values you would need to bring so that the business or the manager would think you are actually worth it is really powerful.
Exactly. And I think if you take it back to having a job, first of all, you may need to go and put extra training and extra learning in to be able to get to the certain stage that you need to get to. Now, if you you're currently on, let's just say, $85,000 a year, and you're currently struggling and you can't quite save and you don't quite know where your money is going, and well, is it that you're not earning enough? In which case, do you go and put some investment in doing a $20,000 course or a $10,000 course? Or is it you just don't know where your money's going and you're buying too many shoes? Now, buying too many shoes is actually okay. There's no such thing as too many shoes. However, it's about knowing sort of where it's all going and what are your priorities. Are your priorities that you want to keep buying lots of shoes or keep booking lots and lots of trips? If they're your priorities in your life, i.e. your perfect day, then it is worth going and investing that $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 into a course to then be able to go and ask for that extra money. But if you don't actually know, A, where your money's going, and B, what you want out of it, you may go and spend this $20,000 and you start this new role and it's still not enough.
Yes. Yeah.
So, or you put all this time and energy into learning this course and not seeing your friends and whatever it might be, and you go and, you know, get this extra $20,000 and you're like, what am I going to do with it now? Like, okay, I got here, but for what? So it ties back into everything. And the same with, I find, like, for example, so obviously not everyone, my baby was very planned out. He was IVF, it was this whole big thing. So I knew years in advance what was going to happen and how it was going to play out, although I didn't plan that long on bed rest during COVID. However, let's just say, you don't have it planned and, you know, whoops, having a baby. By having all of your finances all planned out and structured, which actually isn't that complicated. We don't need complicated spreadsheets. We just need to give it the focus that it deserves. Spreadsheets help, but they're not necessary. When those unplanned things happen, you can actually, rather than going into this absolute flap and having to start from scratch, you can sit down and go, okay, hang on a minute. Where's our money going? What do we need? Let's just sort of circle our wagons a little bit. And by being able to sit down and look at it, you can take a lot of the fear out of it, which actually then makes it achievable, as opposed to you've never looked at your finances, you have no idea where your money is going, you've got nothing saved, or you've got a whole bunch of money saved, but you don't know if it's enough. And then all of a sudden it's this whole big drama. So I think it always comes back to the same thing, just knowing your numbers.
Yeah.
No matter which way you look at it, it always comes back to that same thing.
100%. And it is the thing that people try to avoid and fear doing. And I'm sure you'll have a bit of an idea. I imagine some of it is the spreadsheets or that it is complicated, but like I love, I can hear the simplicity in the way you're speaking about it. And for me, that's what equals success. Like I'm the same with relationships. I'm like, we can make this complicated and we're never going to get out of it. We're never going to move forward. We need to make it simple. Simple equals success, because our brains and minds are pretty simple. And that's what we need in order to make it repeatable or mean that we can see that it's going to work, or even do the thing we need to do. If it's too complicated, we just won't even get started. So what are the biggest fears, do you think, stopping people from looking at the numbers?
I think a lot of the time it's actually not even their fear. A lot of it is, I guess, so we have this whole big thing, and I speak to, so I've got a public Instagram page where I tracked my whole IVF journey. And so I talk to a lot of like mums and single mums and things like that, or solo mums. And it's like, as soon as because I love money, I love, not in a bad sense, in the sense that I love talking about it. I love numbers. Often if we're going somewhere with our nannies, I'm like, oh, can you bring a calculator out? They're like, what now?
I love that.
So, yeah. And so, for me, talking about money it's like, I don't understand why it's a bad thing. Like, don't talk about it. Where someone will get a raise and I'm the first one, like, oh, what was your raise? And they're like, why are you asking that? I'm like, because it's an exciting part of your life, but there's this whole big thing about it's hush hush, you don't talk about money. So I think a lot of that is a fear. And then because we don't talk about it, we don't understand it. We don't know where we sit in the realms of normal. And, you know, is what I'm paying for groceries normal? Is, you know, are other families paying 500 a week, 100 a week? Like, I don't know, because you're not allowed to ask. And it's this whole big unknown. I think as well, with money comes a lot of pressure. So the more money you earn, the more you should have saved, ideally, so people say. The more money you earn, the more fun things you should be able to do, ideally, so people say. And so if you all of a sudden start earning all this money and then you're not buying the expensive Christmas presents, or you're not, you know, throwing the ridiculous birthday parties or whatever it might be, there's so much pressure that comes with that. So if we don't look at it, we don't have to think about it. We just put our head in the sand. We hope for the best. And then we get there. And in some instances it's fine. And in others, we get there and we're like, oh my God, what have I done now? So again, going back to the example of my son's birthday, I hate to think how much I spent. I did not calculate it until I realized that I went, hang on a minute, this is going to happen every year. Probably should work this out. So I actually went back and I collected all the receipts and I calculated it all out in my little bookkeeping brain. And I went, probably spent more than I needed to, but it was fun. And if I want to do that next year, we now need to put away X, Y, and Z every single week. So I now have an automatic transfer every week, and it goes out and I don't even notice it goes. So I think it's about, you know, not freaking out about what you can and can't provide. And if you can't provide it, that's okay. The sooner you look at it, the sooner you can work out, I need to readjust what I'm expecting, and I give myself time to emotionally readjust for that. Or I need to find a solution. And that solution might be asking for a raise, cutting back other expenses, although I'm not one to ever advise cutting back unless you absolutely have no choice. Mainly because there's a whole lot of mindset stuff around that I think it opens a can of worms.
Yeah.
I'm regularly saying to my accountant to be like, oh, well, you know, well, if you want to do that, where can you cut back? I'm like, no. It's where can we go and grow? Where can we get clients?
Where can we create?
Yes.
Where can we create more money? Money does grow on trees. Like it's paper. Let's go.
Yeah. And he's like, well, but if you do, I'm like, no, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to hang up. And he's like, oh, Sarah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just going to go sign more clients. It's fine. And he's like,
yeah. And it is definitely part of it. I agree with you. Yes, sometimes there might be some things you need to let go of. If they're not things that are really adding to your life, they're not really serving you, totally. But if you are cutting back because, like you said, it brings up those scarcity, survival, not worthiness, you know, and you will feel the difference. You'll feel that, like I loved how you talked about checking in with your emotions around it and that you do process it, because you'll feel it. You'll feel desperate energy. You'll feel fear, you know, you might feel a bit anxious. Then you know, oh, okay, like this is not making me feel good. But if it's something where you're like, oh, whether I had that or not, honestly, it doesn't affect me, then that's a different story. But I'm all for, you know, focusing on the abundance. And that's really kind of where I wanted to finish, is that abundance is a mindset. I hear so many women and so many people say to me, and you've shared so many nuggets of how we can practically do that, so much gold, and make it clear and simple. But I hear people all the time, like, I'll be happy when I have this, you know, or when I'm over there, like I will be what I need to be when I'm over there or when I have this. And my belief is, no, you won't. And I know you've been sharing a bit about this as well, that you can get there to the money you wanted, the life, the relationship, all those things. And it can still be, this is not enough, because you haven't become that person. So you haven't taken on what a positive money mindset looks like, or you haven't, you know, decided that you are abundant just as you are, or that, like how your accountant said, you know, cut down, that kind of thing. You're like, well, no, because I believe in possibilities. I believe that there is always more and I can tap into that. So I can almost guarantee that it will come to you because you've already got that belief and you're sending that vibration out. So yeah, I'd love to kind of finish on that, because I feel like a lot of people think this whole, oh, it's fine for you, you've got it all sorted out, or you've got a business, or I'm working for someone and I don't have a business. It's actually got nothing to do with that. You can start right where you are right now, literally with your own just mindset and your own beliefs.
Mm-hmm. And it's even really simple things like working out, okay, fine, this is how much I want to spend a week on groceries. If we take it back to something really simple and go, okay, well, I want to eat steak 3 times a week. Steak is not cheap. Okay, fine. Well, if that's what it's going to cost you, and you now know your numbers because you know exactly what it's going to cost you for your groceries, and you don't have enough, how can you now go and make that happen? Do you, go to the bulk butcher? Do you go straight to the farm? Like, what do you do? And again, it comes back to the same thing. And I'm a broken record. The more you know your numbers and the more structure you have around it, the more solutions you can find. And then your mindset gets better and better, and it just keeps going.
Yeah. And I literally am adopting this belief this year to another level. I literally said to my husband the other day, if you want more freedom, get more structure. Yep. Structure equals freedom. Structure equals possibilities. And so many people don't really buy into that belief. They think structure equals boring or structure equals no variety. I'm like, no, if you have structure, then you can have more variety.
Yeah. Money loves structure and order is what I was told by a coach a very long time ago. And I see it all the time. We have clients that come, their zero files are a mess. They're not doing any reconciling. Nothing's ever happening. And then all of a sudden, everything gets pulled together. Everything's in pretty organized spreadsheets and it's all set up. And then all of a sudden they're like, I did my biggest month. I'm like, yeah, yes. You know why? Because you weren't scared. You weren't lying there at night going, oh my God, how am I going to pay my tax? You knew how you were going to pay your tax.
Yeah.
So you took all of that energy and all that craziness and put it into a Facebook ad or whatever, however you're going to bring your clients in. And all of a sudden, oh my God, look, you've got your biggest month. It happens all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And it does come back to respecting money. I know one of my coaches said to me, whatever you appreciate, appreciates. So if you're not respecting and appreciating money, then it's not going to respect and appreciate you. Everything is reciprocal. Relationships are the same. So yeah, it's literally a relationship to everything. So, oh my God, I literally feel like I've up-leveled just from talking to you. You're a wealth of knowledge. And what I absolutely love about you is the simplicity, the relatability, the no nonsense, but also no chip on the shoulder kind of thing. I knew you were an open book and I'm sure that's why we related because I'm exactly the same, but just this just ease and simplicity and just it's okay kind of energy around money, that even if you're doing it great, it's okay. It's awesome. And we can do it better. And if you're not doing it that good, it's okay as well. It's not you. You're not the problem. It's not your fault. They're just patterns, programs, mindset updates, or you just don't know your numbers. And I feel like that's my biggest takeaway is that, and I hope all the women listening really take that it's not that they're not worthy of what they want. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with not being worthy of money or time or support or receiving. It's got everything to do with actually just looking at the numbers, deciding what you want, and then opening up to those solutions by getting clear on what you need to do to get it. Mm-hmm. And it just breaks it down.
As simple as realizing that you are worthy and what is it that you need and what's that going to cost.
Yes,
it's not am I worthy, it's well, obviously you're worthy, and what do you need and what's it going to cost and how do we make that happen, and if we can't, how do we get you what you need anyway?
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. Everyone needs to write that down. That gave me full goosebumps. I'm so glad you said it twice because I'm that is really powerful, super powerful. Well, thank you so much for being here, beautiful. I've loved this chat so much. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to put all your links below of what you've shared. I really, if you want to follow Sarah's story as well, I'm definitely going to go check it out. I was super inspired by it. I'll put that in the link so you can check it out. And just thanks so much for being here, beautiful.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was so fun.